The Edmonton Oilers just put the rest of the National Hockey League on notice last night following a huge win over the St. Louis Blues at Rogers Place with a heroic return. All that and more today on Oilers Digest. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do so. 75% of you watching these videos have not hit that button down below. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button for any and all Oiler content leading up to and during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, without further ado, let's get into last night's game. But of course, the plot thickens. Yes, we were all anticipating the Oilers without Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Matthias Ekholm. The list goes on and on. We really do not have all day, but 3 hours before game time, we got a juicy tweet here from Chris Johnson. Said, big news developing in Edmonton, hearing that Connor McDavid will return to the Oiler lineup tonight against the St. Louis Blues, and that he did, centering the first line with Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown flanking him at the expense of no Jake Walman. Jake Walman was not out for warm-ups, and you saw the Oilers play with 5 defensemen there. Not too often you see an NHL team ice a roster with 5 defensemen. Also, competent management find a way to get things done, and the Oilers just did not. But they did put John Klingberg on LTIR. So we probably won't see him in an Oiler uniform ever again. But McDavid making his return to the lineup, and Kris Knoblauch said, have no fear. They did not rush him back. This wasn't a Trent Frederick situation where, he thought he was ready and then re-aggravated something. He felt that he was ready and that it was as good as it was going to be, and he really wanted to be in the lineup tonight. Obviously, he wouldn't have been cleared just because he felt he was ready to play. The medical staff felt that he was in good hands and that he wasn't going to create any more damage. Of course, you can't really restrain Connor McDavid from, trying to play. It's the medical staff that work, because if it were up to Connor McDavid, even if he was missing a limb, he would still try to find a way to go out there on the ice. But he looked as good as ever. Didn't even look like he was ailing from something, as the Oilers take it 4-3 in regulation time over the St. Louis Blues. The red-hot St. Louis Blues, of course, they were coming off that 12-game win streak, lost the Winnipeg Jets, and they were looking to start another win streak, and they fall to the Oilers, and the Oilers sweep the season series against the St. Louis Blues, winning 4-2, 3-2 in overtime on February the 4th, and then lastly here, April 9th, 4-3 in regulation time. Of course, it's not too often, the Oilers win the season series against the St. Louis Blues. The last time that they swept the Blues in the season series was back in 2017. But just taking a look at the scoring summary here, Ryan Suter shorthanded there, makes it 1-0 off of a missed call and missed a hold on Jeff Skinner there by Pavel Buchnevich. And that led to the 1-0 Blues goal. But in the second period, Connor McDavid and Connor Brown, the two Connors connecting to make it 1-1. And then Vasily Podkolzin off of a Darnell Nurse point shot, sort of a no-look goal there from Podkolzin, back on the score sheet. If there's a guy that you need to get hot before the Stanley Cup playoffs, Vasily Podkolzin is one of them. I feel like he's built for playoff hockey. The kid is an animal, works hard. He's a great player to cheer for. It's not hard to cheer for Vasily Podkolzin. He's only one of 2 Oiler forwards that have played every game so far this season. The only other one is Connor Brown, and Jordan Kyrou ties it up at 2-2 in the third period before Victor Arvidsson makes it 3-2 early in the third period. Lots of scoring there in the early part of the third period. And then Pavel Buchnevich ties it up until Connor Brown, with 21 seconds to go, makes it 4-3 Oilers and gets the win in regulation time. A huge win in regulation time for the Edmonton Oilers, as they are still in the midst of trying to clinch a playoff spot there. Just taking a look at the game stats, shots on goal 26-23 in favor of the Blues. The Blues washing the Oilers on the faceoff dot, 35-23. Both teams going 0-2 on their power play. So, of course, the Oilers trying to get that power play back in motion. McDavid's back, but you're still missing other key parts of that power play. Most notably, of course, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in Leon Draisaitl, and Connor Brown and Connor McDavid both getting the first and second stars of the game. Connor McDavid playing 20 minutes and 35 seconds. So, folks, I think he is 100% healthy. And, of course, Connor Brown, again, another easy guy to cheer for. Of course, his goal drought last year you never thought he was going to score one last year until he did, and then he turned it on in the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals. Hopefully we can get that again this year. When it comes to Connor McDavid and just trying to, get the engines revving again, Connor Brown knew that he was itching to play. He wants to play. He's itching to play, so we knew it was just a matter of time before they let him. So it wasn't until we got to the rink that we found out. I think he's a true embodiment of a captain, unselfish, hardworking, and leads by example when it comes to, Connor McDavid in his absence in the lineup and the others stepping up. He is giving them their flowers. We've had different guys step up throughout this kind of injury bug in sickness bug, and a lot of guys are stepping up and playing good hockey and contributing. It hasn't been easy, but I thought the guys have battled hard. And of course, the Oilers in front of Jordan Binnington all night long. It was a problem in the past couple games where the Oilers were not attacking the front as much as they should have. And of course, the slot there, the Oilers have to utilize that against good teams. No matter, how clogged up it is, the Oilers will have to find a way other than, just terrible shots coming from the point. And, being in front of the net, in front of Jordan Binnington, will get you a blocker or glove. I do believe it was a glove to the face of Corey Perry. So the worming it up, and Jordan Binnington is not a hard person to get underneath his skin. So the Oilers, always good to see them getting in the dirty areas when it is needed, and just, getting Binnington off his game, because, a key to beating Binnington is trying to get inside of his head. Otherwise, he will lock in. We all saw that in the Four Nations face-off final, not so much, the other games during that tournament, but the championship final, including overtime. You have to get inside of his head, and the Oilers did exactly that last night. Just taking a look at the hockey stat chart here. Just a phenomenal game from Connor McDavid. Darnell Nurse had a great game. He had that big diving play to break up. I do believe it was a Robert Thomas breakaway late in the third. It was either Thomas or Jordan Kyrou, sort of mixed up here with all the St. Louis Blues. Evan Bouchard, after that awful game against the Anaheim Ducks, great bounce back game. And then Connor Brown, when you put him next to McDavid, he will have a great game. And then up and down the lineup, I didn't think anybody had, an awful game there. Like most nights, just, very non-existent. Ty Emberson, 17 minutes, didn't really do a whole lot. That whole line of, I do believe it was Arvidsson, Hyman, and Adam Henrique there could have done a little more, with all three players there being, a little bit of name value on that line. You'd expect them to do a little bit more, but again, Oilers got the job done. Not a whole lot to complain about. And then, of course, the defensemen. 5 defensemen for the Oilers last night. Kulak, Bouchard, and Nurse all playing more than 28 minutes. Almost looks like they went into, double or triple overtime of a playoff game. Nope, this is a regular season game and just missing one defenseman there. So, of course, 3 workhorses there on that blue line. And, of course, no disrespect to Troy Stecher or Ty Emberson there. Of course, both playing more than 60 minutes themselves there, but to play nearly half the game on the blue line, and the Oilers only giving up 3 high danger chances against all night long, which is a testament to that Oilers blue line. Doesn't really matter who you put, on any of those pairs, their team system will lock down when it matters, and that is huge, and they will need that heading into these last couple games, going into the Stanley Cup playoffs to gain momentum. But, folks, what's the magic number? The magic number is 1. They will need 1 point to clinch a playoff spot following, the Flames lost to Anaheim last night, but the Oilers, their 99.97% chance of making the play. It's pretty much a huge lock here for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, the Ducks beating the Flames 4-3 in overtime after that monumental collapse by the Flames last night, sort of helping out the Oilers in the standings, not to mention the Wild winning that wild game, no pun intended, 8-7 against the Dallas Stars. And just taking a look at these standings here, I included the Vancouver Canucks because they were eliminated. I always love pointing that one out. You don't have to worry about the Canucks in the playoffs this year, but the Oilers 2 points ahead, or behind, I should say, the LA Kings. The LA Kings do have a game in hand, but they still have one more meeting before the end of the season. So you don't really have to worry about the Calgary Flames at this point of the season. But you do have to worry about Jake Walman missing the warm-ups last night. Not really too sure what's going on with him, but we did get an update from Kris Knoblauch. He's just day-to-day. We hope he's playing Friday, but that might get pushed back a day or two. I think it'll be pretty soon. It felt like he was questionable and did go on the ice, but just didn't feel quite like he was ready, and that the time off will be beneficial for him. And certainly with the timing where we are right now, only being a week or so away from starting the playoffs, and we don't want to make anything worse than have somebody sitting on the shelf when that doesn't have to happen. So the Oilers being proactive once again with the health of their players, and it's a pretty big player with Jake Walman, one of their big, if not their main trade deadline acquisition. Now the Oilers, again, 4 games left, only have to clinch with 1 point in. That will begin with the San Jose Sharks tomorrow night, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Mountain on Sportsnet. I mean, who are we kidding, folks? Hopefully that is a guaranteed at least 1 point. Take the Oilers to overtime. I don't care. Just find a way to get it done with 3 games left in the season so you don't have to worry about anything after that. But that is it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about last night's game. Was there anything you didn't like? Was there anything you really loved? I'm very interested to find your own analysis of last night's game. I'm very interested to see many viewpoints of how people view the game. Something I love about the game of hockey. But again, let me know down in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe here to the channel for any and all Oiler content. Have yourselves a great rest of your Thursday, folks. Take care. I'm Matt.